recording? All right. Welcome everyone to the PA Industry Partnership, better known as IP, Notice of Grant Availability webinar. The main purpose of the webinar is to provide an overview of the program and allow participants in the webinar to ask questions at the end. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the LNI website along with the grant materials. I'm Michelle Lengel and I'm the Deputy Director of the PA Workforce Development Board. I currently manage this grant program for the state, and I'm joined by James Martini, Dan DeLellis, Quinn Ross, and Zoe Kim. We ask that you please place yourselves on mute for the duration of this webinar until we reach the Q&A portion. Also, not everything in the NGA will be covered within this presentation. If you have questions after this webinar wraps up, please feel free to reach out to the IP resource account listed in the NGA, and answers will be provided in the FAQ document that gets sporadically updated on the Workforce Grants website as questions come in. The deadline to submit questions is January 5th, after which a final version of the FAQ document will be uploaded to the DLI Workforce Grants webpage. With that being said, it is important that you read and understand the NGA in its entirety in order to produce your strongest application. Key dates: all applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on January 16th. All applications must be submitted to the resource account listed in the NGA. Any applications that are received past 11:59 will not be reviewed. If you would like to confirm receipt of your application via email, we strongly suggest you submit it one day prior. All awarded applicant contracts will start on July 1st of 2026, and we anticipate notifying awarded applicants around March 2026. Overview: up to $2.5 million is expected to be awarded. Application requests are capped at $200,000 for a single local workforce development area initiative, or $350,000 for a regional or statewide initiative. But applicants can request less. The department may set grant awards at amounts lesser than $200,000 or $350,000. Applications should support IP initiatives across PA that work to identify workforce, education and training and economic development needs, coordinate regional teams to support industry needs, identify public and community resources to address industry identified needs, and increase collaboration among businesses within a targeted industry sector. While industry partnerships bring mainly businesses to the table to identify their needs and their workforce priorities, there should also be results in the work accomplished to better the lives of those in the community. Goals of the PA IP grants include eliminating silos. Please mute yourself if you have not already. Goals of the PA IP grants include eliminating silos by aligning local, regional, and state education, workforce, and economic development initiatives, including state and regional Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act plans. 2, increase occupational, career pathway, and economic development opportunities for all Pennsylvania residents, including students, youth, and workers, particularly those from underrepresented, under-resourced, and underserved communities. Increase connections, collaboration, and communication between regional and local identified priority industries. Explore and implement new approaches, taking advantage of opportunities and industry-specific solutions. Grow targeted industry sectors who could benefit from sector strategy approaches. Include businesses that have traditionally been left out of these initiatives, including but not limited to small businesses and minority and women-owned businesses. 6, identify, develop, and act upon solutions to address workforce issues and challenges that are supported by the relevant data and information. 7, create a long-lasting partnership and make best use of available funds and resources. And 8, create and implement a strong evaluation plan that meets the partnership performance metrics following the PA Workforce Development Board's adopted evidence of effectiveness definition. Please note, industry partnerships consist of business leaders in one industry working with an array of other partners to address the shared workforce and broader competitive needs of the industry. No industry is excluded from this opportunity. Who must be involved in an IP? Eligible applicants include local workforce development boards, nonprofit and non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, educational and post-secondary educational organizations, labor organizations, business associations, and economic development entities. The fiscal agents include eligible applicants. The fiscal agent will receive, manage, and disperse grant funds. Industry partners must include a local workforce development board, education, economic development, and business partners. The applicant IP must also include at least 3 business employers within the targeted industry sector as partnership members and have goals, target numbers, and methods for retaining and adding business employer members over the project years. Post-award reporting. Grantees will be required to submit program and fiscal progress reports during and upon conclusion of the funded project. All grantees will be expected to do several evaluations of their partnerships during the life of the grant. These include, but are not limited to, the following: community of practice calls, regularly scheduled check-in calls, quarterly and annual reports, and an annual industry partnership summit. Budget summary and expense details. Applicants must submit the GRFP document. Applicants must identify and justify each expenditure by line item, including the cost proposed in each cost category, and the budget justification must be detailed. The budget form as well as the budget narrative are all included in one form, the GRFP, which stands for Grants Financial Reporting Package. The workbook includes tabs for the budget summary, budget and expenditure details, budget justification instructions, and the budget justification. The forms are intuitive and will calculate the information as it is being entered. For example, on the budget justification tab, the white section will populate from what was put in the budget details tab, and the justification tab and section will be part of what is filled out on that tab. There are certain cells that are locked, so don't be concerned about that. If anyone has any questions or issues while filling out the GRFP, please reach out. The budget justification. You must explain how each budget line item supports the stated deliverables of the project. Any staff time funded by the grant must include the annual salary of each person, the percentage of each person's time devoted to the project, and the amount of each person's salary funded by the grant. Provide for private sector matching funding of at least 25% of the grant. Matching funds are required. They are at least 25% required for the grant. Matching funds can be either cash or in kind, and please outline this in your budget justification. What is considered to be a private sector match? A private sector match is any time any employer contributes private funds to finance partnership activities. This includes, but may not be limited to, funds directly provided to support the partnership, space donated, salaries paid to private sector employees for time working on the partnership, or purchases made directly in support of the partnership. Allowable activities may include, but are not limited to, facilitating PA-IP meetings, including developing an action plan, attending Commonwealth-sponsored IP trainings and events, engaging business champions and business partners from defined industries of focus, organizing and facilitating partnership meetings for businesses and regional support teams to discuss local competitiveness needs, working with businesses to determine the partnership priorities, maintaining partnership and convening activities, procuring consulting, technical assistance, and convening facilitation services. Additional allowable activities also may include supporting training, including incumbent worker training, work-based learning experiences, and registered apprenticeship and pre-apprentice opportunities, aligning curriculum with business needs, providing career awareness and aligning with programs of study and career readiness activities across secondary and post-secondary education, coordinated outreach of the region and industry, business-to-business networking, developing and implementing sector strategies that promote in-demand as well as competitive opportunities for Pennsylvania industries and occupations, and improving workforce alignment and career readiness within and across targeted industry clusters. Disallowable activities may include, but are not limited to, alcoholic beverages, land acquisition, and building construction. Evaluation criteria for industry partnership grants includes the statement of need, project design and management plan, data collection and performance outcomes, evidence building and project effectiveness, job quality, stakeholder engagement, leveraging resources and sustainability, and the project summary and justification. Required components of industry partnership applications includes the application form, the project narrative, which is a 12-page max, the GRFP, budget summary and expense details document, the partnership form, the training plan if you're planning to do training, letters of support, which must include one from each of the following: education, local workforce development board, and economic development, and the worker protection and investment certification form. Please note the local workforce development board must be a PA state recognized local board. There are 22 local boards in PA, and be the local board responsible for the area served by the IP. Frequently asked questions. What is the total amount of funds available? A total of up to $2.5 million will be made available. When is the grant application due? The grant application deadline is January 16th, 2026 at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. Are grant matching funds required? Yes, a private sector match of at least 25% is required for this grant. Matching funds can be either cash or in kind. What is considered to be a private sector match? A private match is anytime any employer contributes private funds to finance partnership activities. This includes, but may not be limited to, funds directly provided to support the partnership, space donated, salaries paid to private sector employees for time spent working on the partnership, or purchases made directly in support of the partnership. Is there a cap on requested funds? Yes. Applicants may apply for a maximum of $200,000 per single local workforce development area initiative, or $350,000 for a regional or statewide initiative. Who is eligible to apply? Eligible applicants include local workforce development boards, nonprofit and non-governmental entities, community-based organizations, educational and post-secondary educational organizations, labor orgs, business associations, and economic development entities. The applicant must be capable of bringing together relevant partners to achieve the overall project goals of this NGA. Additionally, the lead applicant must demonstrate the ability to coordinate the project design and implementation of the project, manage the project budget, and implement a strategy to collect, analyze, and report performance outcomes. For all lead applicants other than the local workforce development boards, the lead applicant must demonstrate engagement with the local workforce development board. How do I apply? Applicants must submit their completed application package to this resource account listed here. Will Pennsylvania industry partnership grants be open to new and existing partnerships? Yes, all partnerships are eligible to apply. Can grant funds be used to support training? Yes, these funds can be used to support training, including training incumbent workers and new and incoming staff. To whom should the required letters of support be addressed? Please address the letters of support to Secretary of Labor and Industry Nancy A. Walker. If a local workforce development board is the lead applicant, must they provide a letter of support from another workforce development entity? No, a letter of support from an applying LWDB will suffice. The same holds true if the lead application is from an economic development or education entity. If a partnership plans to use grant funds for training, must the partnership submit a training plan? Yes. Partnerships are required to submit a training plan if grant funds are used to support training. All funded training opportunities should be included on the training form. What is the expected way of capturing in-kind match? Should the methodology of the calculation be included? The methodology should be included. Partnerships can have different methodologies in recording the in-kind match of the partnership participants. Are supportive services allowable expenditures for individuals served by the grant? Yes. Is it possible for an applicant to submit multiple applications for different industries? Yes. Applicants are not limited in how many applications they submit for different industries. The NGA mentioned some target industry sectors. Are those sectors the primary focus of this initiative, or can we make a case for other industry sectors? The IP NGA is open to all industries. Applicants must present the case using relevant data and labor market information why the industry of focus is a priority. Can you provide more commentary on what you are looking for in regards to a regional statewide partnership as opposed to a local partnership? Is there a different rubric for regional statewide partnerships? A local partnership operates in a single PA local workforce development board area. A regional partnership operates in 2 or more PA local workforce development board areas. And a statewide partnership operates in all of PA workforce development board areas. There is not a different rubric for regional statewide partnerships versus local partnerships. Both approaches must satisfy the same qualifications and conditions as detailed in the NGA. It is up to the applicants to decide which approach, regional or statewide or local, they want to pursue for their partnership. The applicant must clearly articulate in their application that they're applying to be a regional statewide partnership. And now we will open it up to questions. So you can come off mute or you can put in the chat what your question is. And while we do that, I can read some of the 2 that came into the chat thus far. Michelle, at the end, can you revisit the letters of support statement specifically about WDBs? My audio is spotty when you reviewed the details. Letters of support must be from an education, local workforce development board, or economic development entity. If you're a local board, you do not need a letter from an additional board, just the applicant itself. Michelle, can you explain eligibility for the 3 required business partners? For example, when an intermediate unit, university, or career link count, can you also reiterate how many additional partners are expected to be planned for and the deadline for that? There's no hard and fast eligibility requirement rules for the business partners. The business partners are expected to be employers within the specific industry that you are targeting. For example, if you have an education partnership that is trying to help schools in the area, then it would be acceptable to have like an IU or university within that. But typically, if you're like a manufacturing partnership, employers would be manufacturing employers in the area. Can you also reiterate how many additional partners? There must be at least 3, and then your project narrative should describe how you are expecting to keep that number or expand that number. I was not able to catch all the info on the targeted sectors. Can you please repeat that? The targeted sectors are in the NGA. Applicants are not required to be part of those targeted sectors, but they're ones that we have highlighted. Would a K-12 school count as a letter of support from education? Yes. If a local board is applying as the fiscal agent, should the letter of support come from the subcontractor lead provider of services?
Michelle, this is Stephanie. That was my question. I'm happy to go back and look at our previous applications if it's kind of just standard operating procedure. I just don't recall it being clarified as specifically before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the letter of support just has to come from the local workforce development board that's being served by the application.
Okay, even if they're serving as fiscal agent, that's okay
Yeah.
to still issue the letter of support. Okay, thank you. Again, it might be me just hanging on the minutia a little too extensively. So thank you for the clarification. And thank you for the head nod, Jim.
And this is why we have these webinars. So could you further address applying as a regional versus a single entity? For example, an IP that traditionally has served the region at large. Like we said in the FAQ, there is no different criteria for a regional versus a local application. The expectation is if you have a regional partnership, you're working with all the local workforce development boards that are being impacted by your regional application. And we're also going to provide a little bit more information in the FAQ as well, because that also came up in our last webinar. If the application is planned to be a multi-year initiative, would it be okay to refer or include the following stages? Yes, I would, in your application though, highlight the specific activities that you're going to conquer during the application year, July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. The hope with industry partnerships is that they continue past the period of performance, especially when we're highlighting sustainability. So it's okay to reference the future, but I would also make sure that you're focusing on the present. Could you review the private sector match requirements again? Yes, let me go back. Yep, private sector matching funds must be at least 25% of the grant, and matching funds can be either cash or in kind. Can you clarify what would be needed for a letter of support for economic development? The hope for that would be that you go to an economic development organization within the area that is being served by your project and request a letter of support. If you need more clarification, let us know. If the program is focused on a specific age range, will that be less competitive? I can't speak to how the review team will score applications. We always say the beauty of industry partnerships is that the applicants and these industry partnerships tell us what the need is in the area. So the applications are reviewed solely based on the criteria that's in the NGA. Any other questions today? Is the annual industry partnership summit listed under require activities, an activity each project puts on, or a centralized L&I event? That is a centralized L&I event. We've hosted it for the last 2 years now. Partnerships have plenty of notice of when we plan to host that, and it is typically in person. And it is free to the industry partnerships to attend. Do we include travel to that in the budget? Yes, you can. Or you could also use matching funds. It is up to each partnership to decide how they want to handle that. Any other questions today? Recognizing the contract performance terms reflect 12 months versus 18 months in the previous application, should budget specifically in line with the 12 months of costs? Yes. Can we braid funding? Yes, that there is a part of the question in the NGA towards the sustainability section. We do ask what funds you are braiding, if any. And like we said, this webinar will be posted and we'll be updating the FAQ as questions come in. So just keep an eye on the L&I Grants webpage. That's where all of this information will be. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for hopping on today. Please reach out to our resource account if you do have further questions. And we look forward to all your applications. Thank you.
Thanks so much.